Raising frogs to play video games. Imagine a world where frogs don't just sit on lily pads catching flies, they become tiny gamers. It sounds impossible, but what if we created a virtual experiment to see whether frogs could learn to play a simple video game? This isn't about turning animals into professional esports champions. Instead, it's a fun scientific simulation exploring how animals learn, react, and adapt to challenges over time. Our experiment begins with a small group of healthy virtual frogs living in a carefully designed habitat. The environment contains clean water, floating plants, insects for food, and safe places to rest. Every frog has different characteristics. Some are naturally curious, others are cautious, while a few are incredibly fast at reacting to movement. These unique personalities will make the experiment much more interesting. Before introducing any games, the frogs spend several days becoming comfortable in their new home. During this period, we observe how they hunt insects, explore their surroundings, and interact with one another. Some frogs immediately investigate every new object they see, while others remain hidden until they feel safe. These differences are important because learning often depends on personality. After the frogs settle into their environment, it's time to introduce the first challenge. Instead of giving them a traditional controller, we create a touchscreen system that responds whenever a frog's tongue touches the screen. Since frogs naturally strike moving objects with their tongues, this makes perfect sense. Whenever a small digital insect appears on the screen, the frog can catch it by flicking its tongue. At first, none of the frogs understand what's happening. They ignore the screen completely, believing it to be just another wall. But eventually, one curious frog notices a moving bug on the display. Instinct takes over. The frog shoots out its tongue and accidentally hits the target. Immediately, a real insect reward drops into its feeding area. That single moment changes everything. The frog begins associating the moving image with food. Soon, it starts watching the screen more carefully. Every successful hit produces another tasty insect. This process is called positive reinforcement, where good actions lead to rewards that encourage repeated behavior. The other frogs notice something unusual. One frog keeps receiving extra food while they don't. Gradually, they begin paying attention to the mysterious glowing screen too. By the end of the first week, nearly every frog understands the basic concept. Moving targets equal food. Now the real gaming begins. The first video game is extremely simple. Tiny insects move slowly across the screen. The frogs must catch as many as possible within 60 seconds. Every successful hit increases their score. Some frogs perform surprisingly well. One fast-reacting frog catches almost every insect before it escapes. Another frog misses frequently because it waits too long before attacking. A third frog develops an interesting strategy by watching the insects' movement patterns before striking. As days pass, the scores steadily improve. The frogs aren't becoming smarter like humans. Instead, they are strengthening natural instincts through repetition and rewards. Their brains gradually recognize patterns, allowing them to react more efficiently. Next, the game becomes slightly more difficult. Instead of one insect appearing at a time, multiple insects move across the screen simultaneously. Some insects are worth extra points, while others disappear quickly. The frogs now face decisions. Should they attack the closest insect or wait for a higher value target? Unexpectedly, different playing styles emerge. One frog attacks everything it sees without hesitation. Another waits patiently for the largest targets. One adventurous frog constantly experiments with different timing, occasionally discovering more effective strategies. The competition becomes surprisingly exciting. Every week, we record the highest scores. At first, the average score is only 10 insects per minute. After several weeks, many frogs consistently catch over 30 targets during the same time limit. Improvement continues. The frogs now recognize the gaming station immediately whenever it's activated. Instead of ignoring the screen, they hop over eagerly, ready for another session. To keep the experiment fair, gaming sessions remain short. The frogs still spend most of their time swimming, hunting naturally, resting, and interacting with their habitat. The games simply provide extra mental stimulation rather than replacing their normal lifestyle. Around day 30, something fascinating happens. One frog begins anticipating where insects will appear before they actually arrive. Although the frog isn't predicting the future, it has unconsciously learned the game's patterns. This allows faster reactions and consistently higher scores. Inspired by this success, we introduce a second mini-game. Instead of catching insects, the frogs must avoid dangerous virtual spiders moving across the screen. Touching an insect earns points, but touching a spider ends the round. Initially, the frogs struggle. Their natural instinct tells them to attack every moving object. Unfortunately, this strategy now causes failure. After many attempts, the frogs slowly learn that not every moving object should be targeted. They begin distinguishing insects from spiders based on appearance and movement. Learning discrimination proves much harder than simple reaction speed. Some frogs master the challenge quickly, while others continue making the same mistakes. This demonstrates another fascinating aspect of learning. Different individuals improve at different rates, even under identical conditions. By day 50, a clear leaderboard emerges. One exceptional frog dominates nearly every challenge. Its reaction time is incredibly fast, and it rarely attacks the wrong targets. Another frog remains average despite practicing just as often. Natural ability appears to play a significant role alongside experience. To make things even more entertaining, we introduce cooperative gameplay. Now two frogs share a large touchscreen. Insects appear across both sides of the display. Together, they must achieve a combined score before time runs out. At first, chaos erupts. Both frogs constantly target the same insects, wasting valuable opportunities. They accidentally interfere with each other's attacks. However, after repeated sessions, something remarkable develops. Without communicating verbally, the frogs naturally spread out across different sections of the screen. Each frog focuses on insects nearest to its position, reducing overlap and improving efficiency. Whether this represents true teamwork or simple habit remains unclear, but the improvement is undeniable. Next comes the biggest challenge yet. The Ultimate Frog Championship. This tournament combines every game introduced throughout the experiment. Speed, accuracy, patience, and decision-making all matter. Every frog participates. Crowds of virtual scientists eagerly watch as the competition unfolds. Round after round, the frogs demonstrate skills that seemed impossible only weeks earlier. Fast tongue strikes, accurate target selection, excellent reaction timing, consistent improvement. The championship remains incredibly close until the final round. The leading frog finishes with an astonishing high score that would have been unimaginable at the beginning of the experiment. Although no real frog understands video games the way humans do, this simulation illustrates an important scientific principle. Animals can learn remarkable behaviors when training builds upon natural instincts rather than fighting against them. Instead of teaching frogs to press buttons or use joysticks, the experiment uses their existing hunting behavior. The touchscreen simply transforms natural tongue strikes into game controls. This concept is already used in many areas of animal research, where enrichment activities help stimulate curiosity, reduce boredom, and encourage healthy mental activity. Of course, this experiment remains an imaginative simulation rather than something intended for everyday life. The goal isn't to force animals into human hobbies but to explore how learning, adaptation, and behavior can produce surprising results. As the final day arrives, every frog returns to its peaceful habitat. The gaming screens power down. The insects continue buzzing through the air. The ponds remain calm. The frogs resume their normal lives, perhaps a little quicker, a little more curious, and a little more experienced than before. Our virtual journey proves that even the smallest creatures can surprise us when given the opportunity to learn in creative ways. So, the next time you see a frog sitting quietly beside a pond, imagine what might happen if that little amphibian encountered a glowing screen filled with digital insects. Maybe, just maybe, nature's tiny hunters would become unexpected gaming champions, not because they understand video games like we do, but because learning, curiosity, and adaptation are powerful forces shared across the animal kingdom. And that's what makes this experiment so fascinating. Sometimes the most unbelievable ideas lead to the most interesting discoveries. Even if frogs never become professional gamers, imagining the possibility reminds us how amazing animal behavior can be, and how much there is still to learn about the incredible minds hidden within even the smallest creatures.